Up next is the tip of the week. This is a feature where we show you a trick or two on how to use some certain feature on your phone or some other feature in a given app. And now for this week's episode, here's your tip of the week.
Now we close our episode with a tip of the week. And a lot of people have held off switching from Google Assistant to Gemini because when Gemini was initially launched, it wasn't as capable of performing on-device operations as Google Assistant was. But Warren shows us that in many respects, this has now changed.
Hi, Warren here for Blind Android Users Podcast, and for episode 224, Tip of the Week. This is demonstrating the feature of Gemini to be able to make phone calls or answer phone calls, stop alarms, and all of the like. This is not going to be demonstrating the whole app as it is, because that will be an entire episode, but I thought I'll do this because there's been a little talk on our email group as to why people are not switching to Gemini because they think that there are certain things that Gemini doesn't do that the assistant does. And this is to show you that indeed Gemini does everything that the assistant does. And the only thing that the Gemini doesn't do is the ability to power off your device, something that neither the assistant does. I am in the Gemini app, and you could bring it up by launching the app itself or use the magic word. And the next thing we want to do, though, is tap on our username found on the top right corner.
Signed in as Warren Carr. Account in settings. Close. Button.
I tapped on my username there on the top right corner, and we're landed on the close button there on the top left corner. Now, moving down, we got
Signed in as Warren Carr.
And to the right of that,
Change profile picture.
You could change your profile picture. Moving on down.
Manage your Google account. Button.
Next.
Gemini apps activity. 1 of 7 in list 7 items.
Now, I do want to mention here in passing that I'm not going to be going into each and every one of these, but I'll only go into those that I think are important, because going through all of these would be an entire episode, and that's not what this is intended for. So here you can
Gemini apps activity. 1 of 7.
Go into here and see the activities that you've done so far, and you could decide to clear them out or even turn off the ability to save those activities. Moving on down.
Saved info. 2 of 7.
Saved info. This is where you could go in and add things like, hey, I just want short responses and things like that. I'll quickly show you that, even though I'm not interested in doing that, but let's go in here.
Progress bar 0%. 0%. Gemini chat to supercharge your ideas. Web view out of list. Chrome.
And I'm going
on.
to move on down. And it is on by default.
Info you asked Gemini to save. Heading 1.
Moving.
Learn how saved info is used. Button.
Next.
Enables or disables the saved info feature. Switch. On.
And
share info about your life and preferences to get more helpful responses. Add new info here or ask Gemini to remember something during a chat. Heading 5.
And now below that on the left,
Add. Button.
we have an add button, and to the right of that is a button that says
Open a menu with more options to manage saved info. Menu pop-up button.
In other
Collapse.
words, if you have stuff you've added, you could go in here to either delete or edit those. Let's go back, though, to the left and tap on that add.
Add. Button.
And tapping.
Edit box editing. Enter new memory. For example, I prefer short, concise responses. Showing English USQWERTY.
So in other words, just like the Google Assistant, where we have radio buttons for, say, hey, I want a brief response or full response, here you could just type in I want short responses or something to that effect. I'm not going to do anything here, but I'm going to go back.
Close tab. But ask Gemini.
Tapping on that close, it brings me back to the main UI, and now I'm going to tap on my username there on the top right corner.
Signed in his warrant.
We're now back in the menu again, and let's proceed from where we left.
Saved info. 2 of 7 in list.
Below that,
Apps. 3 of 7.
apps. Let's go in here quickly, see what this has to do with.
Gemini. Back. Button out of list. Showing items 1 to 19 of 19.
Here we are in an area where we're seeing a slideshow there on the top. If I leave it on, you
Showing
can
item 3 of 4.
hear it keep going on and sliding from right to left. Now, but below that, though, we have some
One
tabs.
conversation.
We
Showing item
have
4 of 4.
productivity, which is selected by default, and to the left, or rather to the right of that,
Learn. Communication. 2 of 6 in list of settings.
communication, go
Showing
right,
item, device control. 3 of 6.
right,
Travel. 4 of 6.
right,
Showing item media. 5 of 6.
and the last
Showing
item.
3 learning. 6 of 6.
Now, by default, the productivity is
Showing item
selected,
4 of 4.
and below that, productivity, or below all of this, is the items from the productivity.
Showing item 1 of 4.
And here's what we got.
Productivity. Google Workspace. Add. Gmail at Google Calendar at Google Docs at Google Drive at Google Keep at Google Tasks at Workspace. Find, summarize, and get quick info from your content in Gmail, Docs, Drive, and more. Showing item
And
4 of 4. Google Workspace app. Switch on.
To the right of that is switched on, and moving on
Showing
down.
item. Send a text message to.
Let's now scroll back though to the top, because you can change these tabs by swiping left and right with 2 fingers to move to the next tab. So you have to scroll back
Showing
up to
item
the top
3 of 4.
and then tap on the one you want. I'm going to tap on the communication tabs now. That's the second one from
Showing
the
item 4 of
productivity
4.
tab.
Communication. 2 of 6. Google Workspace. Add. Showing
I'm
item 2
now
of 4.
in the communication tab, and under this communication tab, we have some of the items that we also saw in the
Showing item
productivity.
3 of messages. Add. Messages.
And to the right of it,
Messages app. Switch on.
moving down,
Send a text message to mom saying I love you. Phone. Add. Phone.
to the
Make
right
phone
of that.
call. Phone app. Switch on. Make a call to mom.
In other words, it's telling you examples of what you can do. You could just ask it to make a call to
Showing item 2 of 4.
mom, make a call to my wife or my girlfriend, whatever the case may be. Next.
WhatsApp.
And
WhatsApp app. Switch on.
and that is also switched.
Call mom on WhatsApp.
You got the drift.
Showing
I'm going to
item
go
4
back.
of
There are
4.
lots of things here, and you turn on the ones that you want and turn off the ones that you don't want to use. I'll now go to the next
The magic
tab.
of Gemini comes. Device control.
Now here we are in device
Showing item
control.
4 of Google Home. Google Home app.
And to the right of that is an off switch as well.
Utilities. Add.
And
Utilities.
to the right of that.
Utilities app. Switch on.
So things like that. Now I'm going to go back up to the
On
top
phone
and
app.
tap on the next
Phone.
tab.
Message.
And that will
Communication.
be
Travel. 4 of
travel.
6. Showing
Next.
items. Media. 5
Media.
of 6. Media. Spotify. Add. Spotify.
And to
Play
the
your
right of
favorites.
that.
Spotify app. Switch off. Showing
and
item 1 of
then
4.
going down.
YouTube. Add. YouTube. YouTube app. Switch on.
You got the drift. Now I'm going to go back
Spotify.
to the top. And the last item
Showing learning. 6 of 6.
is learning. Let's see what we got.
Learning. Showing item 4 of 4. OpenStax. Add. OpenStax. Retrieves passages from openly licensed textbooks from OpenStax. Showing item 1 of 4. OpenStax app. Switch on.
Next.
Learn more. Showing item at OpenStax definition of a Lewis acid.
You got the drift. Now I'm going to go back, and it's going to take me
Showing
out of
item
here.
3 of 4. Send. Page 1 of
And
2.
now I'm going to tap on my username there on the top right corner again.
Signed in his warrant. Account and settings.
Now we were
Apps. 3 of 7.
And moving on down,
Gem Manager.
we
4 of
have the
7.
Gem Manager, and basically here you can go in and choose whether or not you want it to help you, assist you in writing and things of that nature. I'll quickly show you this, but I'm not going to spend some time there because each and every item there explains what it does.
Gemini. Page. Gems. Out of list. Page 2 of 2.
In the gems, though, we have some tabs. We've got All, which is selected by default.
All. Tab. Selected 1 of 3 in list 3 items.
And to the right of that,
Your gems. Tab. 2 of 3.
that's the one that you've chosen to add. And then the last item,
By Google. Tab. 3 of 3.
and that will be Gems by Google. But since we're in All now, what we have underneath here is
Brainstormer Gem. Find inspiration easily. Fresh ideas for parties, gifts, businesses, and more.
Next.
Career Guide Gem. Unlock your career potential. Get a detailed plan to refine your skills and achieve your career goals.
Next.
Coding Partner Gem. Level up your coding skills. Get the help you need to build your projects and learn as you go.
Now that's the last one in there, but you could tap on each of these, and when you tap on each of these, there are other items or categories in there as well. I'll go back.
By Send.
It takes me out, and I'm going to tap on my username again.
Signed in as Warren. Account in Settings.
Now we were looking at Gem Manager, and below Gem Manager,
Update. 5 of 7.
you could tap here to see what has been updated and the things that have been updated since they keep adding things. And below that,
Privacy Help Hub. 6 of 7.
next.
Switch to Google Assistant. 7 of 7.
That's when you decided that I want to go back to the assistant. You could tap there and it'll present you with both the Gemini and the assistant, and you could just tap on the assistant to go back to the assistant. Moving on down,
Settings. 1 of 3 in list 3
we
items.
have settings, and next,
Feedback. 2 of 3.
and last item
Help. 3 of 3.
is the help. I want to go though and tap on that settings because that has some of the things we're looking for, especially if you want to be able to use it in answering calls, making phone calls, sending text messages, and the likes. Let's tap on settings.
Settings. 1 of 3.
And I'll tap.
Gemini. Page. Gemini Settings. Out of list. Page 2 of 2.
We're now in the settings, and I'm starting from the top, and here are the items included in the settings. I'll go through this and open the ones that I think are of importance.
Public links. Control how you share chats and responses. 1 of 11 in list 11 items.
Next,
Gemini's voice. Choose how Gemini will sound. 2 of 11.
next,
Languages. For speaking to Gemini. 3 of 11.
next,
Quick phrases. Skip saying, "Hey Google," for help with specific tasks powered by Google Assistant. 4 of 11.
Now this is important because if you want to be able to do things of this nature, you need to go in here. I'll go in here real quick.
Assistant settings. Google. Back. Button out of list.
And here's what we got.
Quick phrases. Heading.
Moving down,
Skip saying, "Hey Google," for help with specific tasks.
down,
Google Assistant will wait in standby mode to detect these voice commands.
and below that,
Switch on. Alarms and timers. Quote. Stop snooze. Available on this phone.
so in other words, you could use your voice to tell it to stop the alarm or snooze the alarm. And the last item here,
Switch off. Incoming calls. Quote. Answer, decline, silence. Available on this phone, Pixel Buds Pro.
in other words, if you want to be able to use your voice to say answer the call, put that call in silent mode, or decline that call, you could turn this on. Since I don't use that, I don't have mine turned on. And below that, it gives you information that says,
Note, Assistant may activate when you didn't intend it to, if it incorrectly detects you want its help. Learn more.
and I'm going to go back.
Gemini. Quick phrases. Skip saying, "Hey Google."
Now moving on down,
Screen context. Allow Gemini to capture information on your screen. 5 of 11.
Next.
Contact info from your devices. Saves info from your signed-in devices about contacts to make them easier to interact with. 6 of 11.
That explains what it is. Next.
Manage your advanced subscription. Modify or cancel your subscription to Gemini Advanced. 7 of 11.
Next.
Gemini on lock screen. Use Gemini when your screen is locked. 8 of 11.
And you need to go in here to be sure you turn those features on. And next.
Google Assistant features in Gemini. Access features powered by Google Assistant when you use your voice with Gemini. 9 of 11.
So with those assistant features that you've come to know, you want to be able to take advantage of those. You need to go in here and make sure those features that you want are turned on. I'll show you a quick example and then we'll come back.
Page. Google Assistant features in Gemini. Out of list. Use Google Assistant features. 1 of 8 in list 8 item. Access Google Assistant features when you use your voice with Gemini, such as sending messages. Learn more.
And
Switch on.
you want to make sure that that is switched on, because if it's not, you're not going to be able to do those next.
Relevant settings for features powered by Assistant. Heading 2 of 8.
And we got
Hey Google and voice match. Get hands-free help powered by Google Assistant. 3 of 8.
you tap there to make sure you go in and turn on the features that you want. Next.
Personal results. Get info and suggestions specific to you. 4 of 8.
You go in here as well, choose the features that you want on and those you do not want on. Next.
Home control. Manage services for your home devices. 5 of 8.
Same idea. Next.
Broadcast. Broadcast voice messages to your Google family group. 6 of 8.
So you're out there somewhere in town and you want to say something to your family at home, you could do that. You go in here and choose the devices you could use. Next.
App info from your devices. Saves info from your signed-in devices about installed apps to make them easier to interact with. 7 of 8.
In that way, you're able to launch apps and all of that. Next.
Routines. Simplify tasks with Assistant. 8 of 8.
And that's the last item. I'm going to go back.
Google Assistant features in Gemini.
And moving on down.
Digital assistants from Google. Choose between Gemini and Google Assistant. 10 of 11.
In other words, if you tap here, it's going to take you to the settings on your phone where you could choose what assistant you would like to use, whether it's Gemini Assistant or Perplexity or some other digital assistant. Moving on.
Gemini uses location to give you more relevant responses. To control if your device's location can be used, go to Location Settings for the Google app. 11 of 11. Showing
And
items 3 to 11.
the last phrase here is,
Learn more about how Google uses location data.
and that's all that we have. I hope that by now, though, you understand how to go about managing the Gemini app so that you can do the things that the assistant does. Thanks for listening.
Anything we want to say about this?
Well, actually, I have something to say regarding this one, because it happened that I'm promoting Accessible Android here. I did an article, actually a guide about the Gemini apps, only the apps part, which is the extensions, and Warren covered this in the tip of the week. And I did some testing for the guide, and then I included the results. But the thing is, there's still a problem with Gemini, which is the inconsistency. So it could work very well with an extension sometimes. It could just work as an assistant as you expect it to be. And sometimes it just decides to not work as it should. So, for example, sometimes you would feel like it's much easier to go and do the thing manually by hand instead of letting Gemini understand that you want this to be done. Actually, this is not the case always. Most of the times it works as it should, but sometimes it struggles to know that it's an assistant. It struggles to know its capabilities, actually. And this is a real problem with Gemini. It doesn't know actually its real capabilities well. It doesn't know its limitations sometimes well. But I noticed that sometimes, for example, with Gmail, I think 2 days ago I was trying to ask it for something in Gmail, and it insisted that it couldn't open. I'm a large language model. I can't check the Gmail. I don't have a physical presence. So I wasn't asking it to be like a person and open my inbox and go. It was okay. I was trying several times to let it understand what the thing is. I want just to grab this email, but it kept not understanding anything, and it kept saying that you should know my limitations. I can't. I was trying to say, okay, but you are able already to do this. I was trying to ask it for to tell me about the extension, the Google Workspace extension, and it kept not willing to cooperate until after a bit I asked the same question, and it just obeyed my order. So this is the real problem with Gemini. Google should work on this, should work on Gemini to act as an assistant, to be able really to know what it's doing, to really have the real capable assistant. Because with apps, I don't know why they called them apps. Actually, the previous naming was better, extensions. Anyway, this is Google at the end of the day. But with the inclusion of apps and with the inclusion of all of the additions, Gemini is having a big potential. But the problem with Gemini is in Gemini itself. It's in its way of dealing with things, with conversations. So Gemini should be really improved to be able to take advantage of all of these improvements, because it's really on its way there, but it still needs slight work.
I don't know. These things sometimes happen, when they work, and other times they don't. I haven't had that experience that Karine is talking about. If I ask it to read my email messages, it reads my email messages, or if it's something that I haven't given it permission to, it will tell me I need to give permission to that app to access my notification or whatever. So it's one of those things that, technology, when it works, it works. And when it doesn't work, it's very frustrating. I've seen instances I try to do something that I knew it was there, and it may not work at all. So you kind of keep trying and see when it works.
Yeah, I can speak to the inconsistency. For me, sometimes I'll ask it to turn on a setting or something that I know it can turn on, and it usually does turn it on, but every once in a while it'll just say something like, to change the setting, you need to go into your phone settings. Like, no, I don't need to, because you can do this. So yeah, it needs to, like Karine said, it needs to do a better job at knowing what it can do.
Yeah.
Instead of just
in other words,
answering as if you're like, it seems like sometimes it doesn't know that you're telling it to do something. It just thinks you're asking a general question. It's like, no, I'm telling you to do something
specific. Yeah. So yeah, there's that inconsistency, and we want it to be more consistent. And this is a constant work in progress. It's not something that I think it took Assistant a while to mature. So I'm expecting the same thing here. And of course, we're seeing that behavior with Gemini. It will take it a little while to get to that maturity. Right now, I think it's that teenage behavior.
It's still early. It's hard to like a year ago, it wasn't even Gemini, right? It was still Bard. Am I wrong about that?
yeah, it was. 2 years ago, it was Bard.
Pretty new. So I mean, it has come a long way in the past year, but they still have work to do.
I mean, like maybe a few months ago, you can't even ask it to open a web page, but now it does. So, like I said, it's just a work in progress. It's something that is going to mature over time, and most especially if they're going to be phasing out the assistant, then my expectation is that they're going to be working hard on this thing to make it as good as the assistant was.